incredible people.
Thank you, Becca. That was very generous for me anyway. I don't know about these guys, but it was very generous for me. And I'm very privileged and pleased to be here and talk to you a little bit about human factors in innovation and technology. It's a little bit of an innovation software on my presentation, so we're hoping that I've worked it enough and it works the way it's supposed to work. And we can get started. So Becca had told you a little bit about who I am, and I've spent probably as long as these guys have in technology and doing some other things. But mostly what I've had an opportunity to do that I think maybe I can share with you here tonight is have the opportunity to be on the technology end of innovation and see how people receive it, and then also be able to see from interactions with those people how we could do that better, right? And some of the things that need to be thought about as we implement technology solutions to our everyday business problems. So the first thing I'd like to chat with you about a little bit, I'm going to spend some time on just innovation. What is it? At the risk of not necessarily aligning with what Becca just said about 10x and Google moonshots and that sort of thing. Technology isn't something that we don't do. So without the double negative, let me just say it this way: you do technology every day, and you do innovation every day. And innovation is not something that is foreign to us. It's just something that we don't necessarily think about. So how many people are carrying a cell phone? Nearly everybody. How many people didn't raise their hand that should have? How many people are carrying two cell phones because you're, okay. So how many people remember pagers? Okay. That, my friends, is innovation, right? I don't know that it's a good innovation to have two of them, but it's innovation to be able to speak and talk and text and do those kinds of things and communicate in ways where we couldn't do that 15 years ago. So innovation can be all of these things on the screen. It can also be disruptive, and I consider that a good term, but maybe you don't. So innovation can be a lot of things. What we want to understand is, well, what's the definition of it? Because I've heard people say, if it's not a clean slate, or if it's not 10x, or if it's not something big, giant that we're trying to do, it's not really innovative. Well, I think it is. I think it really is something that can be small. I think it's also the process of trying to make things happen, and I think Robert's going to talk to you a little bit about that. I don't want anybody to be frightened by the term innovation, and I want people to have sort of a level setting at the outset. It also means change, generally. When you're innovating something, you're changing it. And so somebody's cheese is going to be moving. How many people have read that book? Who Moved My Cheese? Somebody's cheese is going to move. And that means that somebody's going to be uncomfortable. And you're going to have to pay attention to that, or you risk possible failure, or you risk possible delay. And in a state like California, when you're trying to do something in government, failure can happen on a big scale. What you want to do is pay attention to those things that you could have paid attention to at the outset before you hit that wall where you have to pull a plug. So incremental or transformative is really kind of less of the question. What we need to understand is that it happens kind of slowly in government. Again, that's not bad. That's the way government is designed. It's designed to be deliberative. It's designed to be inclusive. Those kinds of things make it slow. This notion of better sameness is sometimes thrown about as being a negative, but for me, if it's better, it's better. And you know, I'm really not caring if it's better sameness. If it's better, it's better. It's an improvement. So, not much more to say about that. There are some. I don't know if I made this word up. It didn't. Yeah, it didn't kind of eject me out of the spell check, so I'm going to go with it. Confoundations. So when we're innovating things, or when we're thinking that we're going to innovate things, or we're going to improve things somehow, we've got a whole slew of things that we have to pay attention to. That maybe make it a little bit harder in government, but not impossible. This notion of the millions of eyes and the power of the press isn't always a good thing. And the reason I say that is because it often results in a very narrow perspective that is sort of context-free, right? So, you know, the press will pick up on, you know, some piece of something and publish that, and forgets that there is some other, there's some other details there that kind of change the picture a little bit, and that impacts how people see us innovating in government, which is not always helpful. So these are this all falls into the category of the kinds of things that we need to pay attention to when we're innovating in a technology sense. This is our aircraft carrier slowing and turning and innovatively changing, and hopefully, I don't know how long it takes to slow an aircraft carrier and kind of change course, but I understand it's pretty long. So let me talk a little bit about some of the things that we were doing in Health and Human Services Agency before I retired there. And by the way, my work with Stewards of Change kind of continues this, in this line. We find that when we're trying to innovate in the health and human services space around making systems talk to each other and setting up conditions where departments can share data about their customers in a client-centric fashion, we often don't speak the same language, and we often get into these situations where we have completely different objectives or different goals and fears, and all of these things on this screen are meant to suggest to you that there are things that you have to pay attention to and get past. Trust is a big thing these days with trying to understand data sharing and how the public is looking at that, especially with things like the Target breach and those sorts of consumer data security issues. It impacts how government can get its job done too, potentially. So things to pay attention to. So we talk about this notion of getting to yes between agencies that are trying to share data and share systems, but it's not automatic. It's also not impossible. It is just a large, tough nut, and I found that large, tough nut there. I have no idea what kind of a nut that is, and I think it is actually a child holding it, so it's probably not as big as it looks. But in the area of innovation and successfully innovating, technology is not usually the problem. It's usually people, and but that doesn't mean that it is hopeless. I have no idea what that slide is, but when I Googled hopeless, that's the slide I got. So I thought I would just share that. So what we're trying to do is build a bridge between however we're doing it now and however the innovation is that we want to achieve. And that's our own Golden Gate Bridge that people like to suggest was only built in 4 years. And I think that there's more to it, right? Yes, the construction started in 1933 and it was finished in 1937. But notice when the first proposal, when the formal proposal was introduced, and that was after maybe 2 decades of thinking about it and dreaming about it and trying to build support and trying to do all of the things that you do in government in order to move that battleship or aircraft carrier, right? So, that's a 21-year timeline that it kind of ignores, some of the dreaming and thinking and planning. I like this part in 1936 when the bridge is open to people. I call that testing. So hopefully we're not doing this, where we're building monuments to, dead people, and, that take generations to complete. Hopefully we're doing something a little bit faster than that. So one of the things that you want to pay attention to is recognize the environment. And I'm going to use an example. I know we have someone in the audience here from Fiscal, which is, I think, represents a very innovative, and maybe some people would disagree with me, Alicia, but, I think Fiscal represents a very innovative approach for how the state is going to do its business. Now, if you're out there in private industry and you already have these kinds of systems in place, it's not innovative to you. But remember, the environment is telling us what, is dictating what is innovative to us. So these are some kind of helpful tips. But let me talk a little bit about Fiscal. And the reason I want to talk about it is because the waves are starting to happen. We've just completed wave 1, I believe. Most of the departments the control agencies, I think, are coming next in wave 2, and then all of the rest of the departments will follow. So remember the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge? How long was it? I mean, I don't have an answer for this, so it's not really a test, but think about it. How long has Fiscal been on the drawing boards, and how long have we been planning this project, and how long have we been waiting for this and working toward it? And who were those people in your organizations that signed off on the project documents and basically signed up your department to be part of this? Not like you had a choice, but basically all of those people have left. They've all retired. Nobody remembers what the requirements were. Nobody remembers exactly what was going to happen. So that what happens now? Fiscal has a bunch of project deliverables that it has to meet, and it's on a timeline. And the departments that have to be part of this have no clue what to do. So what we did in our agency, in Health and Human Services Agency, where I was the agency information officer, we put together a SWAT team to help departments understand how to make the change, how to live with the innovation, essentially, how to be innovative. And we started very small, and we made some, I think I have a slide here. We asked people to be open to this, and we asked people to if they needed help, and we also asked people that if they could help, would they? I actually didn't ask them. We just we put together this SWAT team from volunteers out of every department to help the smallest departments get their work done, because every department has to go through it in exactly the same way, and the bigger departments obviously are better suited to that. We also did some other innovative things, like where's Jay? Well, Jay, you weren't part of this ITLA team, but Jay was part of ITLA, IT Leaders Academy. Any other IT Leaders Academy graduates in here? Okay, so what we did was ask the IT Leaders Academy for their annual project to help us do this and to get this done. So there was a lot of innovation going on a lot of different levels that I think has spilled over into how these departments and the people in them are looking at innovation, and then what kinds of ways they can find to innovate. I think I'm kind of running out of time here. So the next tip I would give you is look for the low-hanging fruit, which is exactly what we did with this example. We knew that people had to do this. We knew that they were going to run into trouble, and once we were able to put something together, we can then use it as a cookie cutter kind of approach across the rest of the departments, so it's very repeatable. Then the thing I would say is, I have a short video that I want to show you. I hope that the speakers are going to work the way that they're supposed to work. But what can you do when innovation is happening? You don't have to be the leader of it. You don't have to own it. But what you can do is be a cheerleader and be an ambassador, and most of all, you can be a follower. And so let me see if this is going to work the way it's supposed to. So that guy on the screen until we get to the sound. So he's dancing all by himself, then this guy comes in and is dancing with him, and so that's kind of key because he's showing other people how to dance with him, right? He's showing people how to innovate. So this guy before was just one lone nut out there dancing, and now there's two people dancing, and it could be two lone nuts out there, and the guy in the green is showing everybody else how to do it, and everybody else is just waiting, right? Waiting to see what happens. And then a third guy comes up, right? So now it's not just two lone nuts, it's a crowd, and a crowd is news, right? Three's a crowd is news. And then, look what happens. People start wanting to get closer to that innovation. They want to be a part of that. And so, basically what you see here is people are, they're joining in. They're no longer afraid. Somebody has shown them how to do it, and then they're able to feel comfortable making that change from sitting and not being a part of it to all of a sudden being a part of it. So basically what the rest of this is, and you get it, right? So then there's a whole big crowd that that starts dancing when there was one lone nut. and so the most important part there is not to be the nut. That's not really how I want to say that. It's the important part that happens here is when the second nut follows, right? The second guy stands up and dances. That's the important part. Not that you have to be that person, but when you can be, do, right? When you can be the follower, show people how to do it. Be the follower. And so it just kind of goes on from there. Anyhow, I think I'm 2 minutes over. I borrowed 2 minutes from Jeff's time or Robert's time, so thank you very much.
So again, I'm Rob Schmidt. I'm the Director of the Executive Office and Agency Information Officer for California Department of Food and Agriculture, and 31 other departments, boards, and commissions. So I work with both the state CIO and the independent departments, and Secretary Karen Ross, the Secretary of Agriculture. So today I'm going to continue on the conversation that Shell started. I think you're going to see in our presentations a lot of things that are in common, and I think we're going to add value to each other's presentations. So first I'm going to give you some agricultural context and talk about the issues in agriculture we're facing in California, some globally that you may not be aware of. I'm going to be talking about an innovation, thank you so much, innovation framework, some basic ideas, expanding on what Shell shared. And then I'm going to do a quick case study on CDFA and actual innovations we've implemented. And my focus is not on the big, it's not on the big boat. My focus is on little things, doing a lot of little things creatively. So I hope you enjoy this. So California agriculture is the envy of the world. We produce an abundance of remarkable, safe, healthy, and affordable food while taking care of the land and environment. California itself is a major contributor to the global food supply and the national security of the United States. So in 2012, the USDA census shared that we had over 80,500 farms and produced over $42.6 billion in agriculture. Many people think that technology is #1 industry in California. It's not. It's ag. So the state produces nearly half of the U.S. grown fruit, nuts, and vegetables. And there's a number of crops in California that are grown that are only grown in California, such as pistachios. However, as we enter the second decade of the 21st century, we face unprecedented challenges to sustainability. Water, regulations, labor, invasive species, urbanization, environmental quality, energy, climate change, and a long list of issues that presents both risks and opportunities for agriculture producers and the industry as a whole. The central challenge we face in California is to achieve and sustain the capacity to feed, by 2050, 9 billion people. To do this, we're going to need to grow 100% more food. We believe that 70% of this food will be through the use of technology. So what is innovation? Innovation has two sides. I like to think about it as the customer need and the technological need. So innovation is about finding a better way of doing something. It's about connecting the dots. It's about fulfilling a customer need. So as a CIO, I'm always tuned into customer conversations. And as I listen to customers, I look for opportunities and quick wins. So as a recent example, a customer came to me looking for a way to collect a licensing payment for customer public scales. Within 3 weeks, we had a demo ready for them that could do just that. Then on the technology side, I see it as a framework with the elements of, you see on the screen: strategize and plan, governance, change management, execution, measurement, and feedback. So I'm going to spend a few moments on each of these. So strategize and plan. I use a technique called value chain analysis. How many of you have heard of that before, value chain? And that is, I've studied the industry and looking at the agricultural community on a very basic level. We have crop planting, buying seeds, planting, growing, harvesting, packing, and shipping, and selling a product. It's very common, makes common sense. And when you see that red arrow there, I'm going to expound on this a little later, is it says use fertilizer and apply better techniques. So from a farmer perspective, this is really important to them. They want to maximize their use of fertilizer, and they want bountiful harvest. So we leveraged this idea and built out, using our programming team, built out a system for this. And I'm going to share with some photos of that later with you. Governance. So to be successful in innovation, you need to have a strong governance structure. Our CEFA Governance Council is headed by our directors of our executive office. We have 7 directors, including myself, and it's called our kitchen cabinet. So the directors are there to provide the commitment, the prioritization, and solicit the funding. What I find very difficult in innovation, even small projects, is finding funding. And finding those funding sources. So you really need directors that are committed to doing this. And we have a lot of ideas in my department, but it's always about finding the funding sources. But what's interesting is people get creative. Sometimes we find grants, and I'll share some of those ideas with you. So change management, as Shell shared, this is really important. So we apply change management for one primary reason, and that is to ensure the results of the change are achieved. And it's necessary because we change for a reason. The organizational change requires individual change, and the organizational outcomes are a result of the individual change. And there are 3 important points, and I leverage this concept from a lot of the strategic work I've done. You need a sense of urgency. Why are we doing this? You need a shared vision. People need to agree to something. And you need a guiding coalition, and that's where your executives and other folks come in. Sometimes I find too, is I look for folks for the guiding coalition, change agents. So if I'm working with multiple departments, I want to find those people who are really interested in the topic and want to work with me. Execution. I think this is a great quote. Execution is the multiplier of innovation, meaning that the organization can execute well on a few good innovations is more powerful than one that has lots of great ideas and no way to execute. And what I mean by that is I look for quick wins. I'm well known for doing quick projects, 90 days or less, at low or no cost. I know vendors don't want to hear that, but I look for things that can really change how small groups of people do their work, and I've been very successful at that. What I do is I leverage those small wins and then look for bigger projects, and sometimes I find funding that way. It's been very successful in finding funding. Measure and feedback. Innovation is an iterative process, and I think that's something important to remember. So I always advise to lean away from marketing your idea until you have it well into your field trial. You need to assess how the innovation fits across the organization for cultural fit. You need to get end user feedback. And you also need to be on the look for new initiatives, because sometimes when you complete one initiative, you can leverage the same idea and build out another initiative. So now I'm going to switch to a case study. So what is the role of CIO in food and agriculture? So as I have multiple roles, I travel to many remote locations from Smith River. Who's been to Smith River? One person, yes, way up north, way on the Oregon border, down to El Centro, California. Who's been there? A number of you have been down there. It's hot in the summer. Right now it's 120 in the shade. So I visit our CDFA veterinarians, our entomologists, our weighmasters, our livestock inspectors, our chemists. I start my conversation with a simple question, and that is, what is it that you do? And sometimes they whip out their smartphone, and I start talking about what kind of things, cool things they have on their smartphone. I said, no, what's your job? What do you do? And that usually develops into a good working relationship with folks where I really get from them is their job and the excitement they have from their job. And I can tell you, a lot of the folks I work with have been doing the same kind of work for 20, 25, 30 years, and they're really into their work. And so once you get to that, you start learning what they do. And so this working relationship is with the people that matter most, our 1,100 Sacramento employees, and our 900 field employees, and our 58 county agricultural departments. Many people don't realize that agriculture really is a matrix organization of federal, state, and local people. And we're the people that make this happen. We're in 85 locations and 3 states. So disruptive technologies, what is that? So I work with technologies, new technologies such as social media, analytics, connected to the field, riding on the cloud. And I'm using this to advance our team in CDFA. And so we were recognized in 2012 for 2 national awards on innovative projects that leverage these types of technologies. So first, I'm going to break this out a little bit for you. So there was a time when farmers used to get together at the local feed mill and talked about the weather, what was happening in the world of agriculture and in their neighborhood. Back then, communicating with others was called socializing. It was done face-to-face and generally local. Now farmers and people spread the word, whether business or personal, using social media tools, and CDFA works to motivate our 95,000 first-level contacts. Examples include our Planting Seeds blog, and it's plantingseeds.cdfa.ca.gov, which represents about 6% of California government's web traffic. We also have our California Grown video series, 31 YouTube videos that we did last year, and we won 4 awards for those videos. We had in the first couple of months over 110,000 views of those videos. And our contributions to agricultural technology through Twitter and other channels. And I've been doing experimentation on Twitter, and currently we have about 67,000 followers. Mobile only. 70% of the work CDFA does is in the fields of California, so it makes perfect sense that our portfolio of projects is mobile only. There's some great examples of what we're doing in this space that I'll talk about. So first is report a pest. Now this is not reporting your neighbor. It's not kids reporting kids. This is people reporting bugs. So let's say you have a suspicious bug in your backyard. Right now, my neighborhood in Fair Oaks, there's the Japanese beetle, and he eats everything. It's voracious. And so you take a picture of that using this app you can download for free. It runs on the Android platform or the iPhone. And you submit it to CDFA. It gets reviewed by our scientists, and we advise you if it's a good or bad bug. In fact, if it's a bad bug, we have the location that you provided. We have your contact information that you provided, and we'll be immediately in touch with you. We can actually dispatch people to your location based on the information we have. And it's actually been very helpful. We've had a few findings through this within the past year. And the idea was citizen engagement. When you can engage the citizen and make them part of your team, they're excited by that, and at the same time is you've gained from that. Next is cattle brand ID down here. So in the past, for the past 50 years, our livestock inspectors had to carry around a phone book-sized document, and typically it was soiled because they're out in the middle of nowhere. It was in their saddlebag. And so rather than that, we developed an iPhone application that has all the cattle brands. They're basically the cattle tattoos. It has all those 50,000 cattle brands in a little database on their phone. They can be completely disconnected from the cellular network and still access that. And they can instantly find that information. Previously, it took 20 to 30 minutes to find a cattle brand. Now they can find it almost instantly using many different search criteria. Next is public waste scales and its related farmers markets I'll talk about. Public waste scales. Truckers and dispatchers are frequently trying to find what's the nearest waste scale to weigh my load of fruit or vegetables or whatever. So we developed a quick app for that. It's something I worked with Department of Technology, and we were able to do that like within 30 days. From there, we took that same framework and developed an app for certified farmers market. So basically the same code, different database. And again, quickly brought out an application. So we have every certified farmers market. We're using Google Maps. And that's now being shared. And now we're working with public health. I don't know if there's anyone here from public health. We're working with them on getting WIC data in the same database. So we're collaborating across departments. So I think this is a great, great idea in terms of getting something out there quickly into the hands of the public and sharing information we already have, basically open data. And all these apps, any public app you can find out on the CA mobile gallery. If you Google that, you'll find that very easily. Analytics. So who's heard of big data? A number of you, okay. In big data, they typically define it by variety, velocity, and volume. But in the ag community, we really don't think in those terms. So the terms I have to use with the ag community are equipment, meters, and forecasts. We have timescales of batch, monthly, daily, and real time. And our volume is through sensors, pumps, meters, and forecasts. Why is this important? Agriculture, I think, is going to be a significant user of what we call big data. Imagine every water meter that we have to track, every valve that we have to track. We're going to be looking at ways of regulating water in the fields. And I think this is important. And also, too, is sensors. There's going to be, I'm talking to a number of different folks who are developing sensors now for the amount of water moisture in the soil, to keep it simple. The amount of nitrogen and nitrates and nitrites that are in the soil. And so I think this is a huge area for agriculture, and it's just starting. Analytics, again. So earlier I talked about that fertilizer research database. And basically what we did is we took existing data. We had 20 years of published research, PhD level research, that we had a staff member catalog. And then we built a database around that. So people have the metadata that can search on any type of information. So farmers can go in here, search by the type of crop, the location, and then they can pull up papers that can tell them how much fertilizer to dispense, the type of fertilizer, and the techniques they can use to maximize their yield. As another example, we built a farm-to-fork database. Again, we leveraged information, we talked to the farmers involved, and we're able to build out a graphical website that shared information on major farms in California. And we also, within both of these, we also brought in what we call ecosystem services. So we're not just talking about the location, we're talking about the surrounding wildlife habitat, the nutrient cycling, the recreational cultural activities, the structure of the soil, the fertility, the biodiversity, the water quality, and the pollination services available in that area. We believe that this is the first ecosystems database that's been developed in the US. It was rolled out last fall. And there's a lot I think we can do with that. Remote sensors. I'll try not to dive too deep in this because we were working with NASA and JPL. It sometimes confuses me, these things they say. So basically this, imagine satellite technology that can take a picture of your backyard and with some processing, ultimately tell you the type of trees in your backyard down to the variety. That technology is available today. And the power, that's amazing. Today in Los Angeles, if I want to tell you where the citrus trees are, I have to knock on your door. Imagine knocking on every door in Los Angeles saying, do you have an orange tree in your backyard? We no longer have to do that. So looking to the future, we're going to be leveraging this type of technology. So the types of problems I experience in ag tech that we're dealing with, first, intellectual property. When we have ag data, who owns the data? Who controls the data? How do we secure that data? And in terms of ag standards, imagine these billions of sensors we're going to have in farm fields in California. How do we connect all those sensors? Today, the typical technique is cellular technology. That gets expensive. So how do we connect billions of ag devices to the internet, and what methods of interfacing these devices? These are problems that need to be solved. So I'd like to close with this thought from our Secretary Karen Ross. California is at the cutting edge of innovation within the agricultural sector, from water use efficiency to research advancements in product development. The careers of the future can be found in the agricultural sector and our universities and businesses leading ways to support a vibrant, high-skilled jobs market. We need to encourage more individuals to see all facets of the agriculture production, sharing and supporting highly skilled and technical career paths. Thanks for listening.
You know what? So amazing about being here today and talking to all you guys is I've been doing this for almost 30 years. Since I was a student at Sac State, I've been talking to folks just like you. I remember wheeling, and I tell this story all the time because it's so important to me, wheeling typewriters to the Capitol and unboxing them and showing them how you could type 100 characters, look at it, make sure it was right, hit a button, and print it out. Back then, that was serious innovation. That was serious advancement. The IBM Wheel Writer typewriter was a beautiful, amazing thing. And ever since then in my career, and mostly being in Sacramento, I went to Orange County for a little while, there's been these waves of amazing innovation that have come out. I mean, truly just amazing innovation that have changed the way you and the state and the citizens of the state and the businesses of this state, etc., the way in which you do things. Who would have thought 10 years ago that many of the things that exist today would even be in existence? Who would have thought? Google. Look, the list is long. There's so many of them. There is just so many amazing capabilities, I call them, and I think I might even start calling them elements. I don't know, they're out there. They're like the core components of technology that can be leveraged to do amazing things. When I look at where the state is right now, what can be done in the state, and the people at the state that we need to serve, I look at taking those elements, those capabilities, and building human systems with them. A human system would be an innovation where we kind of look at it in this way. I'll use our own cloud, and by the way, almost all the amazing huge leaps that have taken place in society over the last 10 years have been around the cloud. The cloud is something that's been built and exists. It's massive horsepower to do amazing things right now. iTunes, downloading apps on your phone, entire sophisticated apps with identity and access management and privacy today, right now. It's out there and we're doing it. We're living it. We're breathing it. We truly live it and we breathe it, and those things come out of the cloud. Those elements, the idea of building human systems is taking these amazing elements of capability and saying, how can I take those things that are already built and serve need right now? And that's what, in my mind, the concept of a combination of human systems and technology, of innovation and leadership. The leadership part is saying, I see that opportunity within my framework of performing the proper due diligence and the proper scoping and the governance and the investigation of, is this right, can this be done, and in what time frame. The innovation is a different cycle than it was even 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and certainly 10 years ago. And I speak to you from the perspective of having done these projects in this state and around the country and multiple continents for that matter for 3 decades now. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm like a kid in a candy store, and Becca and you guys who know me, I literally, I'm one of those guys who got scar tissue. I've been a part of big projects that have failed. It's hard. But I sit down with these people in Google and other companies, by the way, and we talk about the challenges that government faces. And the people who manage this cloud infrastructure and have new ways of looking at things go, James, it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that hard. We can do this. I remember battling, for years, standing up identity and access management in the state and 134 departments, my years at Microsoft, working with brilliant people. And the technology that existed at that time to stand up this identity and access management across 134 departments. It was tough. And we did it and we powered through and we had our challenges. At Google right now, and it's not just Google, but I work for Google, so I'm going to use my organization as the example. There's plenty of examples. Microsoft and their Azure platform would be one. Salesforce is another. We stand up 1.3 million authenticated users a day. 1.3 million a day. When I was working diligently with OTEC to stand up the state's email system, when I worked at Microsoft, the Office 365 system, we had challenges that were entirely different than what exists right now to do amazing things. What if we changed the way we look at what it is we're doing? What if we center our efforts not around the systems, but around the people that we serve? What if we build communities around a child or a family? What if we take all the people from across the programs that serve a child in a foster home, or a veteran, or a student? What if we organize around them and build this human system? What if we take, I love saying this, because this was the first aha moment I have, so I'm going to back up. What if we take Google search? We have the ability to go to a search box today and type information in there and go to the world's information and bring back what it is we see. In fact, if my son is in a water polo tournament and scores 5 goals, like 2 days later, magically, I type his name, there it is. I'm like, wow. What if we take a structured, thoroughly planned out, under proper governance and risk mitigation strategies that our IT leaders in the state have, and take this new amazing capability, i.e. a Google search, and just scan and index all the information across human services. Scan and index all the information that we might need to serve the homeless, to serve families. I mean, the possibilities are endless. The whole world is doing this right now. We can do it. We can do it, and you know what? In the larger scope of things, scale is not even an issue anymore. I remember battling hard and competing in many scenarios at Unisys and working so closely with IBM and Deloitte and other systems where the challenge was scale, and the scale is the state of California. That is not a challenge anymore. It simply is not. So we need to rethink the way that we organize and we attack these problems. We need to look at what exists today, the modern technologies that exist today, and we need to point them towards the challenges we face. The last time I was a panelist at an event kind of like this, I was at the Ronald Reagan building in DC. And at this time I was leading HP's analytics and big data and business intelligence program across the Americas. And I had the coolest opportunity, in fact, being a military brat. I went in, I'm in the Ronald Reagan building with those generals and people from 3-letter agencies. And we were there to talk about big data and what that means. And what I suggested, and this is what I'm suggesting to you today, is if big data were not a problem, if the volume, velocity, and variety, if you're a technology person, you know these things, but let's say just for a second, the management, the consumption, the analytics, the purposing of this data was not a problem whatsoever anymore. What would you do with it? And on that day, when I was in DC, what I told everyone, I said, gather your leaders. And I said, by the way, this was new to me. I'm like, holy smokes, you know how hard this was when I was doing projects out in Oklahoma or Washington, California? Oh my goodness, and I'm looking and meeting with all these people. In fact, we're doing it. We're going to Disney, all over the world, continents. We're applying big data and we're solving problems. Walmart. I told them, gather your leaders and write down all the things you would have done over the last 2 or 3 years if the volume, variety, and velocity of this data wasn't a problem for you anymore. What if you could just analyze it, retrieve it, search it, act upon it? What would you do? And the amount of calls and activity that got out of that were amazing. In fact, we just went to one 3-letter agency and said, look, you have so many, this isn't about, this is just, here's all you can drink, let's go do amazing things. And here at Google, that's the way Google thinks too. And what I'm proposing as we talk about innovation and leadership, in this case, in this room, no matter how senior you are, no matter how long you've been around, no matter what department you are, or what your age is, look at your problems through today's capabilities and elements. Look at your challenges through what exists today. How about if we use social media-like capabilities to organize around a veteran or a child or somebody in need of service? Let's think for a second. I'll use one great example. I love this one. How about Uber? How about re-looking at the way taxi cab and transportation is done? What if you could download, in fact you can, what if you can download an app onto your smartphone, push a button, and say, come get me? Who would have thought? How about, you know what, this is really cool. I got my mom to try a smartphone. I was trying so hard. I'm like, Mom, I worked for, when I was at Microsoft, Google, I go, Mom, you gotta look at this. And you know what ultimately flipped her? Was Maps. I said, you're gonna take my phone and no matter where you go, you're gonna speak into it and you're gonna tell it where you wanna go and it's gonna tell you how to get there turn by turn. Now she uses a smartphone, she's on Facebook, she's texting, she texts me like crazy, her and my daughter. I'm like, yeah, this is what's now. What if every veteran in the country, what if we had them download an app onto their smartphone? And that very same app and that very same look and feel they could have on their desktop or their tablet or their laptop. Any device, anywhere, anytime, they can come get their information. Be supported by the community that's there to support them. We can do that. In fact, we are doing that. Take any challenge you have. Take today's technologies and apply them at those challenges with all the proper due diligence. And look at those core elements is that I want to search and find information so that I could then, with my community of people who are supporting this individual, let's take a foster care child. How about a teacher? How about a caseworker? Court-appointed special advocate? How about a foster family? How about the previous foster family? How about the doctor? What if we had a wheel, and on that wheel are all the faces of these people, and in the middle is the child? And when a question comes out about how to best support that child, what if we click on that button, and I can open a text or a video conference, and communicate with that person and ask for information? What if every one of those individuals who has a silo of data that's accessible to them, what if every one of them could go to a simple Google search box right then on that video conference or on that telephone call, and go to a search box and type information and go to their silos of data and bring that information out right now? What if we built it, because this is important in government, we can't afford no Tom Brokaw moments. I've seen these too. Implementing CalWINS, lost a child. That is, you know what, when you set a bar and a standard so high to take care of kids and families, you need to step up and adhere to it. So I totally understand the importance of making sure that when that individual goes to a search box and types for the information, they're only allowed to retrieve the search results that they're allowed to see in their job role. We can do that. We're doing it. Let's rethink the way we innovate. And in my opinion, what that means is let's leverage what's already built. Do we need to have a 5-year plan to build stuff that at the end of that 5th year already is not compatible with what we started with? Do we need to do that? I don't think we need to do that anymore. I really don't. It's just not necessary. The whole world is moving this way. There's many companies who said cloud will never happen. They're going. The reality is cloud has happened. And we're not blazing into this bold, risky future. In fact, we're catching up to a successful past at this point. It's time to do that. And so this is where, I'll coin a phrase that my dad always told me when I'd say I was going to pull the weeds later or whatever, when I was young. My dad went to the Naval Academy. He expected things out of me. He expected performance out of me. He expected many things, but one of the phrases that I use to this day, and I use it on my own kids, is don't talk, do. Don't talk about it, do it. If you set up on the path of actually doing this, the end result is not that far away. It's really not that far away. In fact, the risk of getting there now is not what it used to be. So, don't talk, do. Don't talk, do will get you the innovative result, and it comes from leadership at all levels. And I think this is the right thing, is to look at building human systems on technology that already exists. The computers and whatever, the amazing cloud and all the horsepower and everything else delivers amazing things, but the human brain's pretty powerful too. Let's take all the human brains in and around a child, a family, a veteran, pick one, and let's connect them and let's give them the simple tools to get the job done. And let's find leaders all across the organization to build those, to participate in those human systems. That I came up here expecting to do 15 slides in 15 minutes. I hit them. I hit all 15. We'll send it to you, and you can see the pictures that go along with what I just said. But I will add, hey, we're doing it. We're doing this today. And it's not just Google. The state's doing it. My competitors are doing it. Everybody get on and let's lead and innovate. And that's it. All right? Thank you all.
I'm up here to kind of maybe, hopefully, give all of us as individuals something to reflect upon a little bit, and something to possibly, add on and complement to the things that the panelists discussed tonight, and that James has just articulated in some of the sense. Human systems and technology, us as humans, and how we reflect on things and how we look on things. For a very long time, spoken word has been in the process of being colonized. First by the written word, then by printed words, and finally by the technologized word. Now in the age of word processing, the internet, social networking, text message, the spoken word is in decline and at risk of disappearing. We can't react to this, if we can't react to this evolution, which is slowly disconnecting us from others as well as from ourselves and rich inner resources that we all possess. We're in the need to reemphasize F to F, face-to-face conversation, and interaction by talking, listening to each other more frequently, the living spoken word heard directly and not via the media or by using a machine as an endangered form. Communication which must be kept alive for the social and professional well-being of ourselves and all those around us. Since the appearance of technology, human beings have neglected each other and themselves. Technology, together with commerce, has slowly taken a toll on humans' innate abilities and deprived them of their capacities. Today, far too many of us find ourselves isolated, stressed out, exhausted, at times depressed. We're spending less and less time together in living face-to-face conversation, interaction with our families, friends, colleagues, more and more time working, being online, sending emails, text messaging, and yes, even playing electronic games. We have allowed this situation to evolve and to have not been able, as of yet, to find the strength to resist. In fact, this is a source potentially of stress or frustration itself. I can't get any cellular reception. Leave me alone. I'm almost beating this game and at the next level. We have given up so much in exchange for the glory and never-ending development of science, technology, and commerce. However, some days we have little or no time for just a few kind words with a friend or simply another human being whose path we may cross over our busy scheduled day. My point is that this situation is needed some reflection and wisdom in order to find solutions for more harmony, collaboration, and reduction of stress, and even sometimes health in all of us as human beings. Set a balance between our use of technology and the time we spend in conversation, social and professional interaction with others, and this as maybe, opposite of being happy is I can now multitask because my meeting has now been moved to a video conference environment that I can mute and work on my computer at the same time. The more advanced technology becomes, the more it seems to have control over our lives. We shop, work, search for information, seek to communicate with each other, and sometimes with the world online. We spend more time online than ever before. Yet people are not alarmed with this current trend. Is it possible that people have too readily embraced technology, seeking only the benefits and ignoring the potential downfalls? Has developments in technology, such as the internet, also led to the decline in normal social behaviors? The coffee shop provided a way to both share and abandon solitude. But sitting in your screen would and can be a whole other story. Are you socially and psychologically cut off from your fellow caffeine addicts in that coffee shop? The internet has changed many levels of human experience. In an incredibly short amount of time, in 2008, just 16% of the world's working population qualified as hyper-connected. Today, it is 40+% of us that meet that criteria. The rate at which people adapt their lives around technology is amazing, considering the early reluctance to the concepts. Ultimately, it does not matter how many or how few different devices we use to connect. The question is whether the hyper-connected life is taking us where we want to go. The majority of people own and regularly use computers, but most never question them when it comes to crashes, replacements, viruses, and when it comes time to replace them. You never question it. We do not have to replace paper every few years. Paper does not crash. You put too much onto it. When we put too much onto it, we have to move to computers. We live more in our heads than any society has at any time in history. And for some, the only reality is the one inside their head. Our society is a very work-oriented place. We try to fill up our schedules to the brim in an attempt to get as much done as possible. It at times does not occur to many people that doing that much work may have negative effects, such as preventing them from hobbies, spending quality time with your friends and your family. Technology has a very similar effect. First, when you get a cell phone, you check it occasionally, maybe under the dinner table. Soon you start checking it more often, out in the open. It's amazing. Sometimes not hearing what people say to you, or even missing a whole conversation. When we become habituated to the amazing technological achievements of recent times, we forget to be thrilled and amazed. We lose that great sense of wonder, of awe. We take brilliance for granted, and so we ignore the human elements of fortitude, creativity, and intelligence. We have all heard it, people whining about when a computer fails to do something as promised. It's so slow. A Mac would have been much better. My computer ate it. These are all examples. People seem to conk out when something small goes wrong. What we all forget sometimes is that how amazing these technologies really are when used right. We are so lucky that even to have computers, laptops, and tablets in the first place. A lot had to fall into place in order for all of this to work out properly. In no way am I discouraging the need for technology. I just am recognizing with all gains of progress also comes some pain and sacrifice. Through recognition of this, I promote balance and judgment in this quickly innovating and growing technological environment, and how it touches, assists, and affects humans in their daily lives. And I encourage recognition of this as we all grow and gain knowledge and experience navigating leadership of our own lives and as we lead others. In conclusion, modern technologies can very well be a double-edged sword. From safety to connectedness, they do have their advantages, but as with many revolutionary inventions, they can radically change our lives, for better or sometimes for worse. Just something to reflect on. And I do work in technology, by the way. Thank you.